All right, this is still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on local government autonomy, matters arising, here's a background report put together by our correspondent Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The Supreme Court judgment granting financial autonomy to 774 local government councils nationwide has been met with mixed reactions and feelings, though many tend to be in favor of the judgment. The Supreme Court had ruled that it was illegal and unconstitutional for governors to receive and withhold funds allocated to local government areas in their states, and as to be interpreted, the judgment is binding and must be enforced nationwide. The court further empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to bypass state governments and disburse monthly federal allocation to the local government areas. As much as some state governors have expressed their support to the Supreme Court judgment, many have expressed their reservations and reactions. For example, the 33 council chairmen of Oyo State have dumped the Association of Local Government of Nigeria, ALGON. The chairman, in a communique issued by all the chairmen, unanimously declared their unalloyed support for Governor Seyi Makinde. They attributed their unequivocal loyalty to the governor for his exemplary leadership and unrivaled achievements since his assumption to office. The council chairman revealed that the decision to move to new association was arrived at due to the need to protect and provide for the people in their various local government areas. It also said that the intended association for local government executive chairmen will be registered under the relevant laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, the Supreme Court of Nigeria, in a landslide judgment on local government autonomy, ordered that the 4-year tenure enjoyed by executives be extended to the offices of all local government chairmen across the country. Finally, it will be easier to hold local government bosses immediately accountable for any misuse of public funds, since they are not covered by the immunity clause which presidents and governors enjoy. With all these leverages given to the local governments in the country, many have questioned how accountable these local government councils will be, judging by the level of freedom they get. What are the checks and balances on them? Questions our guest will be answering shortly.
Thank you, Yemi Ajayi, for that background there. And we have in the studio our guests who are already seated to discuss local government autonomy matters arising. And let me just start in no particular order. I'm going to start with Ezenwa Nwagu, our regular chairman partners for electoral reform and convener Say No Campaign Nigeria. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Good to have you. All right, good morning. Also, it's my pleasure also joining us here in the studio. Let me introduce Shaba Ibrahim, former House of Representatives and former chairman Kogi Local Government Council, LGC, and legal practitioner. Shaba, you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here.
Good. Thank you. Also from Lokoja Studio in Kogi State is John Ajewole, a constitutional lawyer. You are welcome. John Ajewole.
Good morning.
You are welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, thank you very much. Right there. Let's also introduce other guests joining us for the conversation via Zoom. We have Honorable Aminu Muazu Meifata, the National President, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Welcome and good morning.
All right, so once we have one more guest who would join us for this conversation, we would let you know. So,
all right, let's just kickstart the conversation now with Ezenwa. Let's look at the judgments of the Supreme Court now, the recent judgment on local government autonomy for grassroots development. What does it mean when we talk about, the effect it will have, the implication on grassroots development in Nigeria?
Well, if
if everything works well, the intendment of that judgment is that it will strengthen local governance. It would build the capacity of those who hold the reins of power in the subnational to be able to deliver for their own people. So it's with excitement, I must tell you, that people received that judgment. Because for me, the local governance is more important, really. If we have our local governments working for the generality of the people, doing the things that they should do, indeed some of the restiveness that we have will be minimized. So the challenge has never been for me, and that's where about judicial pronouncement is about the elite, the thinking of the elite, their value system. What do they really want? What are those things that interest them? If what is of interest to them, then this is something that should be welcomed, and then to ensure that the majority of our people who live mostly in the backwater communities have a taste of not just governance, but even democracy. Where do we teach our people democracy? Where do they learn democracy? If we have chosen to be democratic, then the place to teach democracy should be at that subnational level. And financial autonomy plus political autonomy will drive and produce democratic people. People who think democratically, people who truly are civilized in their conduct, in language, in engagement. We're not having that now because you have czars, if you like, you have emperors who still run these places as if it is still in the feudal stage. So this is some kind of awakening, if you like, of the consciousness of the people to feel democracy, to participate in democracy, and then through it exercise governance.
When you say that your fear is with the elitists, that whatever they comprehend concerning these Supreme Court judgment will determine how far we go with it, what exactly do you mean by that? You mean that if they do not buy, into the Supreme Court judgment, it will not go, we will not see the effect?
It's just like a child. To wean off a child from the mother's breast is perhaps one of the most difficult things that can happen. And that's because oftentimes you find out that the comfort that it provides is something the child does not want to lose. So the governors who have operated really in much more like I permit the use of that word, like emperors, their stranglehold on the subnational, on local governance is tough. I hear people say, yes, we have financial autonomy as guaranteed by the Supreme Court, but if the governors control, as they currently are doing, control the levers of power and relationship within that structure, then you are not going to really enjoy, because as they say, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So what I think is that it should go with political autonomy. Financial autonomy must also go with political autonomy, where we have truly democratically elected local council officials who will owe their allegiance to the people. Most of the time now, the people who run local governments actually don't live in those local governments. They live in their capital, because every place the governor is going to, they have to be there, they have to show presence. They only visit their local governments. By the time...
There are also state governors who don't live in their states.
No, they at least, most of the time I know they are abroad, and they are not even staying in Nigeria. I know that, but that's the point that I'm making, is that we have to have people who,
on ground for their people.
Who feel the pains of their own people. in the true sense of it.
Okay, many thanks, Ezenwa. Two comments you made. First, you said if everything works well, meaning things may not work well. And then you said it's not about judicial pronouncements, it's about what the elites want. So the question is, are the elites above the law? But let's get to Shaba Ibrahim. I want to find out what you think about all of this, local government autonomy. And then I want you to focus your attention at what is happening in your state at the moment. How do you think all of this will go down?
Well, thank you very much. I like to say from the onset that the whole idea of local government autonomy is something that most Nigerians really like to have, because the local government, as I know, as it ought to be, is the total of government without argument. Somehow, if you look at how the Constitution is structured, it will appear as if the framers never really intended it as such. But, going by the provisions of the Constitution as known to me. But in the real sense of it, it's something that can drive development. And like Sawagwa said, the local government as the total of government supposedly, be the total of governance is supposed to be closest to the people, the grassroots, where developments can be, basic needs of life can be provided. But in reality, and regrettably to know, they have been under the stranglehold of, you can even call it financial chokehold of their excellencies. This conversation has been on for a very long time, and it will appear as if the governors especially have seen the local government as their cash cows. It's very easy to fleece the local governments because context, though provided in the Constitution at the local government level, is not a popularity contest. It's by anointing. Once their excellencies say you are, you are. That ends it. And by so doing, there is no allegiance to the people, properly so called. The allegiance is to the appointer. That is the anointing authority. And that is where you have the mischief. The chairmen at that level are not really, they're not answerable to the people because their mandate never really came from them in the first place. And so I see the entire Supreme Court decision, as far as I am concerned, is a process, with all due respect. It looks inchoate to me because without a corresponding pronouncement on how these councils are constituted, how the chairmen are voted into office and the councillors, it will only be a mirage. But I think it's a bold step in the right direction. Is what the late Justice Oputa would call judicial activism. Or radicalism, because if you look at it, it will appear as if even the judicial, they just had to look beyond the ordinary letters of the law and say, look, this is what ought to be in a society that needs to really push development. So since the governors have learned to fleece without missing, the courts too have decided to shoot the target directly. And by so doing, I mean the Constitution as it is would require some amendment. Our extant laws will require some amendment to be able to drive fully the entire issue about local government autonomy. There has to be a step forward. The whole idea of a SIEC, that's the State Independent Electoral Commissions, is so worrisome to many. In my state today, there's a lot of apathy from the opposition parties as to whether they should even go into that contest or not, because we all know that it will remain just what you call the hollow ritual if and only if there are no electoral reforms.
A one-party election.
Absolutely. I was called from the party secretariat to ask if people are not buying funds from my local government. Perhaps there is still a lot of apathy. Not many people believe in that system. So unless and until you can win the states of the power to conduct local government elections, all that pronouncement, the governors are smarter than that. All that pronouncement will be, with all due respect, a waste, because they can do you know how, I mean, how these things are done? Time will not permit, but I can talk from practical experience. Some of the things I've seen. Having served as chairman of Algon in the state at one point, and so I mean, bravo to their lordships. That pronouncement is in tandem with the aspiration of majority of Nigerians. But we still need to go a step further. I want to encourage the Attorney General to also take before the Supreme Court. You understand? Because constitutional amendment also requires the buy-in of the state governors. I mean, the respective state houses of assembly. I don't see much coming out of it because these same houses of assembly have earlier at a point voted against their own autonomy.
Autonomy, exactly.
I mean, it's curious. It's crazy. But that is the reality on the ground. So unless and until we weave some kind of, we need something around, over and beyond them, you know, go beyond them and try to get things done through judicial, I mean, radicalism or whatever you choose to call it. We will not go anywhere. Their excellencies are too fixated on the funds of the local government to be able to, and it's so easy to take because it's something you do without accounting. Can you imagine the state legislature going around saying it's oversighting local government councils, where local government councils have their own elected, quote unquote, elected legislature? They will leave the state because the governor is too big for them to look after, and go after local government council.
All right, many thanks, Shaba Ibrahim.
So,
let's pause you there, you know, and get the, you know, perspectives of our other guests joining us, you know, from other parts of the country. Let's get to the national president of Algon now, Honorable Aminu Muazu Mefata. I would like you to tell us what the situation of things are now with the local governments after the pronouncement by the court, you know, declaring local autonomy, financial autonomy for local governments. Tell us, has it taken effect? There are reports that there's a 90-day window, if you like, moratorium, you know, pending when all of that will kick off. Tell us the situation of things, and then what do you think about the financial autonomy, and if you agree with the points of the guests right here in the studio.
Thank you very much. I said this, I'm very happy with the statements most especially by my colleague, by my senior colleague, and the other guests on the Supreme Court. As Algon, we say, so far so good, and we welcome that pronouncement with all hands. And we all know that pronouncement has really kickstarted a new era in time of local government administration wide. It rejects or put so much that had been on caretaker administration for long to, by that pronouncement, to announce or to roll out election timetable at the local government councils. So this development, it is a good start. And about the full takeoff of that pronouncement, especially sending monies direct to those accounts, we know it has been given as a policy for it to put some things in order. Some of these things we know, like linking the local government accounts to the national treasury, and then put all the necessary foundations or reject the local government entirely accounts department to brace up for this new government that we are going to find ourselves. And thank God, this, from all indication, it has come to stay. And from the feelers I've been getting from various states or various Algon state chairmen, that is various local government councils across the country, I can say so far so good. One of them has reported to the national album that his fund, he has been directed, or local government councils have been directed to channel their funds to where they are not supposed to go, but to the local government coffers. So this is the report, the good report I'm receiving so far, which indicates good starting and good things to come ahead for the local government councils and the people at the grassroots. Having said this, we are all aware of the challenges that local government councils, most especially the chairmen, are going to face ahead. That is, are we ready to carry our sword, to carry our flag, to move ahead? That is where we are looking at. That was why, after that pronouncement, we called our NEC meeting on the 26th of last month. And the main reason for calling this NEC meeting was to tell ourselves the truth and to sensitize ourselves as the various states Argon chairmen that now we are on our own. This Supreme Court pronouncement has been welcomed by each and every Nigerian, most especially at the grassroots level. The thinking or the expected things from the local government councils now is to see that local government councils are being revitalized like they used to be in those days or in those years, where local government councils can undertake developmental projects, can attend to its constitutional responsibilities efficiently and perfectly, most especially in terms of attending using financial resources at its disposal. Now, these resources are going to be channeled through us. So we need to know this, and we need to know, just like it was said the other time, we don't have, the local government council chairman don't have anything to shield them. No doubt, our principals use their influence to bring any council chairman to his seat. But now you are on our own. You are on your own. You need to put it at the back of your mind that if you don't do the right thing, your principal, that is the governor, will not be there to defend you. But he has contributed immensely, no doubt, in bringing you to that seat. But now you are going to be answerable to the people at the grassroots, the people that are supposed to have voted for you. Knowing this, you must have to sit up and do the right thing. And don't allow the people that are now so happy with the Supreme Court pronouncement, don't disgrace them. This can be done, or this can be so by performing as expected as a local government council chairman, by people to see you undertaking a lot of rural roads, undertaking a lot of maintenance and provision of other basic facilities like potable drinking water, and so many of them maintaining primary health care centers and providing the drugs, genuine drugs that are going to be used there, and make all these things available at affordable prices, if the case may be, or just free to our people, so that they will know that, yes, what we were hearing, that local government councils were taking care of primary school education, all their needs, providing free exercise books, free learning materials, when local government councils were constructing drainages and culverts, when local government councils were providing or building, constructing markets and maintaining them, when local government councils were ensuring that each and every household or community is kept healthy, the hygiene is there. We have the health overseers, which in the north we call them dubagari, that go around to make sure that our drainages, our households are kept clean, all under local government council's watch. So this is the dream, or these are part of the dreams that this Supreme Court pronouncement will be able to rekindle and to restore them back to local government administration. So we have told ourselves for sensitization of local government councils across the country to know our roles, to know what to do, and to know how to go about conducting our affairs.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Meitafa there for Meifata, okay, for your feedback there. And you told us that the feedback you have been getting from the local government and have been very positive, and also you have been having meetings on how these judgments will work. Oh, okay, fine. Let's go to Lokoja now, Lokoja studio, where we have John Ajewole, who is a legal practitioner. Let's have your view on this Lokoja. We're going to Lokoja now, where we have John Ajewole, who is a legal practitioner. Let's have your own view concerning this local government autonomy. We have been examining, the guests so far have been examining the benefits. I want you to give us your own view and probably some of the drawbacks that may arise from giving full autonomy to local governments. Giving full autonomy to local governments.
All right, thank you very much. On my part, the judgment of the Supreme Court is a welcome development for us as a nation. This is because over the years, the local government administration in Nigeria has not been what it is supposed to be. I agree with those who have spoken ahead of me that, yes, at the onset we may have challenges because for everything that is new, people are cautious about it. But it is good for us to just look back briefly to see the evolution of the local government and how we were where we were until that judgment. And many of us will remember that local government started as indirect rule by the colonialists in West Africa. And of course, it was in Nigeria that Lord Lugard really gave it a major boost. Then, the indirect system rule of government was run through traditional rulers, local administrators, and they have their institutions then. It worked. They have, for example, the native authority administration, native authority courts, native authority schools, native authority treasuries, and things were working. That was the First Republic. Eventually, let me concede also that there were abuses then, particularly in terms of the native authority police. And when the First Republic went the way it did, the military in preparation for the Second Republic came out with what they call local government reforms. Like I remember it was during the Murtala Obasanjo regime. They came out with major reform that will help the local government. And it did not quite work out at that time. But the constitution that ushered in the Second Republic, the 1979 Constitution, in Section 7, provided that henceforth, local government will be a recognized tier of government. And that's why we have it for the first time, the way it was couched in the Constitution. the Constitution recognized the local government as a tier of government and defined its functions in the Constitution. And of course, also provides, strangely also, that it will be controlled in a sense by the local, by the state government by way of the control of its finances, elections, to their offices, and some other things were left in the hand of the local government. That was the state as at the end of the Second Republic. Now we have this 1999 Constitution, which is what we are operating, that is the bane of what we are looking at. Of course, our experience under the 1999 Constitution compared with what we had in 1979, and as well compare with what obtained the First Republic, was that things were getting worse. And of course, local government effectively became the appendage of state government. And there was the attempt with this local government autonomy bill that the National Assembly attempted to bring forth to correct the situation. That too did not quite work out because it required the concurrence of the State Assembly of two-third state of Nigeria, which did not happen. And so that bill died naturally. That was the background to what we now have today. Yes, under the practice we had in the past, it was a hybrid in the sense that on the surface of it, the local government were recognized by the Constitution, and their role were defined in, of course, the Constitution as well. But when it comes to the, for example, holding of the election, that one was state. And of course,
seem to be having some technical challenges there connecting with John Adewale. We hope that will get fixed, and of course we'll get back to him to get his thoughts on the topic of discussion. But let's quickly head to Ibadan now. We have Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayade, a professor of political institutions, governance and public policy department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. Professor Ayade, if you can hear me, good morning to you, sir. Professor Emmanuel Ayade, all right, I'm sure you can hear me. So I'll just quickly ask you, you've been following the discussion, you've heard the thoughts of guests right here in the studio and those joining us outside. What do you think about the local government autonomy? And then I'd like you to tell us what is going on in your state, because there are reports about, of course, the governor kicking against the judgment, and then we've seen local government chairmen coming out to say, they do not support, the financial autonomy for local governments and all of that. But give us a true picture of what is happening in your state, and what are your thoughts about That's not a clean connection, but that would get better, hopefully. So let's get back here in the studio now.
Okay, it's back.
Professor Emmanuel Ayade, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great, fantastic. So I hope you got my question about what are your thoughts about local government autonomy, and then the comments made by the guest right here with us, and tell us the situation of things in your state as regards local government autonomy, financial autonomy.
Well, the latest development is really that the 33 local governments have come out to declare support for the position of the governor and to say that they are going to opt to do the decision. Also, as we know, the Supreme Court is very clear in terms of what has been declared. The first is that No governor has the powers to replace elected local government chairman with caretaker committees. It also stated very clearly that local government without elected local government officials will not get allocation from the federation account. And finally, it also says that money should be given directly from the federation account to local government with elected chairman. And I think the bottom line is that the Supreme Court underscored the local government level as a third tier of government in Nigerian federal system, an issue that has been in contention in public debates, and you see people taking positions that suggest that they want local government to be completely under the purview of state government. This is not unexpected, given the fact that people are not happy with the way local governments were created under military rule, and they thought that the consolidation of the names of local government in the constitution is an effort to keep that arbitrary local government creation, which they think favor of some parts of the country, especially those with military officials in high position during those heydays of military. This is the policy around the Supreme Court decision. While I think that establishing local government as an autonomous level of government that is completely under the control of their communities is where we should go, I think that the decision of direct payment to local government from the federation account does not automatically guarantee that. And it is important for us to make this very clear. And we also need to look back to what happened under the Obasanjo regime, especially when he was paying federation account directly to local government, and what local government officials did with that money. When my colleague in the studio was talking about absentee chairman and absentee local government officials, he's probably also trying to dig back to what happened during that time, where you have local government chairmen who appear in the local government once in a month to share revenue from the federation account. They are absentee people who don't live in those local communities. And it is also that kind of behavior that characterizes the appointment of local government caretaker committees, who are not necessarily residents of local government areas, but they can claim indigenship of those local governments, but are beholden to the state governor. So we have quite a number of messy issues that needed to be addressed before we can take local government back to those local communities, because the issue is not just about who controls local government between the federal government and the state government, but making local government part and parcel of the life of communities, so that local government will be owned by those communities, support the activities of governance within the local area, and ensure that local governments, both in terms of their vision, in terms of their program for those local communities, look up to those communities for ideas, for action, and those communities are part and parcel of the decision-making process, not just monitors of what goes on, but active participants in the decision-making process, and also in mobilizing resources to support activities at that level. So we talk in terms of achieving what I describe as local governments within the local government area. That should be the goal. That cannot happen, as Ezenwa said, without some kind of consensus among the levels of government. Because, as you know, the Constitution currently grants state government extensive political powers to oversee what goes on at local government level. So if the federal government does not negotiate with them, the decision of the Supreme Court might end up being meaningless, as you can see from what is already happening in Oyo State, for instance. So we need to negotiate this process. This is very similar to the offshore and onshore dichotomy that the Supreme Court decided on, which Obasanjo found that if it doesn't negotiate with those communities, it's not likely to be able to implement that Supreme Court judgment. So what he did was to put parties together to sit around the table and discuss what they think is best given the decision of the Supreme Court. This situation also requires that kind of that kind of negotiation dialogue with state government to be able to address that, because the state governors and their houses of assembly play a very vital role in local government, both in terms of elections and also in terms of constitutional amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ayede, there, for your contribution there. A lot of issues need to be addressed before actually the before we can actually have the full benefits of this local government autonomy. Let's come back to the studio. Isn't where you have listened to the contribution of other guests, and just like you said too, that there need to be a kind of a compromise between the federal, the state, and the local government now. Now, what do you think from all the issues that have been raised? What do you think should be the role of the state government in this instance?
Well, happily there is consensus in the panel in terms of what this means for all of us.
Yes.
The only thoughts that keep, resonating for me is today's Algon, today's chairman, under what kind of condition were they elected?
That's the same question that was raised earlier.
So, no, I mean today's, the people who constitute
the Algon,
the platforms at that subnational level were elected through the kind of process that my distinguished honorable talked about earlier, which is the point in which the party, the dominant party in those states, took 99% of the vote cast. In fact, I'm being patronizing in saying 99%. They took all.
All, yeah. 100%.
So whether it's in Oyo currently, where you have that solidarity, it is a solidarity of benefit. The same thing Honorable talked about, where the states' houses of assembly will come together and say, look, we don't want autonomy. It's imponderable. What we need to do is to remove the stranglehold of these governors. Dr. Professor Ayede is talking about negotiation. What we are dealing with is impunity.
But he talked about a process that it cannot just be done.
No, I'm coming. We are dealing. You can use process to cure impunity. You can, if the end point is impunity. He's absolutely correct. That is a process.
Yeah.
But let's look at what we are dealing with. So the Supreme Court gives a judgment. Somebody sits somewhere and says, "Let us negotiate it." Where are we going to go with all of this? Where will we go to? Because except we are very clear about the things that we want. If it were a court of appeal or lower court, but the Supreme Court of the land gives a judgment that resonates with majority of the people who live in that place. And some people say, let's negotiate. Let's have a conversation about that judgment. Let's know whether we have imbalance in the way the military created the local governments. That has to do with surgery, some kind of political surgery in the National Assembly. They can do that on their own. But today, the local governments, the one that exists, if they have financial and political autonomy, the majority of our people who live there will benefit. What do? We need to tinker around first, possibly. What do we do with the SECs, the state independent electoral commissions? We need to deal with the money itself. Where, yes, is in the, what do they call it, sir? Is it first line charge? Just like INEC gets his own money, can the SECs also have their money? Can they be trained? Can there be a new process of appointment? Can we have a stakeholder, representation in the State Independent Electoral Commission? What do I mean? You can have the political parties have nomination through probably IPAC, you can have civil society, you can have professional groups, you can have the judiciary, you can have security agents, you know, have representation within that platform. And then you have their money coming to them, so that the process of, first and foremost, leadership recruitment within the local government can be one that gives little confidence.
What about the fact that it is the governors that appoints the head of this CX? Are you in support of CX, or you think INEC should conduct elections for local governments? Because some people are also...
I don't believe in outsourcing. I believe in improving what you have.
Okay.
We had an INEC that everybody knew that you could be going to cast elections, and the result of where you are casting the elections will be announced. That's where we came from. We started working. Both the National Assembly, there's stakeholder unanimity that there is need to be improvement in that process. The donors came, everybody came, and then there is incremental progress. I mean, shift from what we used to have in the past. Many times, when you want to solve a problem, you create a new problem. Those who are talking about new, what do they call it now? They say new INEC for the states. Some are saying, you know, let's scrap the SEC and let INEC conduct the election.
Yeah.
All of those debates is part of what we do when we have a problem. We outsource the problem. We never ever want to confront it. What are those challenges that we have with the current State Independent Electoral Commission in terms of leadership recruitment process within that place? How do we work around it and make it better than what it is currently? So, in answering your question, the way you have it at the national is that the president nominates. When the president nominates, the challenge is that in most of the states, you truly do not have state assemblies. You have an extension of the state house. And so, in reality, if you had the kind of National Assembly that Honorable them were in, where something can come in and people say, no, this is the better thing to do, this is the right thing we should do. But you don't have that in the states. You don't have that in the states. So the debate and negotiation should be citizen negotiation, really, for me, in terms of what do we want our local government to be. Where do we want it to go to? And not to sit down, people who have appropriated that platform already, ambushing all the structures that can even engage in the negotiation, holding it in their hand. So if you go to the negotiation in the state, you bring members of the House of Assembly, you bring the state chairman, who, by the nature of how they came in, their complexion in the first instance, does not even allow them to be neutral in that negotiation. So you are going to... It's about impunity. And we need to come to that point where we say we are clear about what we want to do with our local government.
Impunity. But do you think that the fact that local government, chairmen do not have immunity would help in all of this? Because if a local government chairman decides not to do the needful, for his people, and he doesn't enjoy immunity like the governor, I mean, anything could happen. So don't you think that would, probably encourage them or, make them push to do something better? And also looking at the fact that we've had governors who were anointed, like you said, or installed by their previous bosses, if you like, former governors. But when they get into office, they decide what they want to do and turn down the offers, or if you like, the advice of their anointer, exactly.
Or godfather.
Godfather. So yeah, so can't we see that play out with the local governments too?
Yeah, to an extent, yes, but largely, you see, most of these things has to do with the frame of mind of the man who is at the helm. From my own perspective, I was elected under the same constitution we're talking about. And I must say that considerable extent we didn't have this kind of interference that we're witnessing today, though this was over a decade ago. In fact, let me put it on record that our own set of chairmen, we were the first to serve out our tenure under the law that elected us. Mm. And it's because we took on the House of Assembly head on. In this case, it was not even the governor. it was the House of Assembly. At this point, the speaker had to ask me in Yoruba, "I'm a kilo share now. Can't you even? We can't even say any small thing. Instead of you to come and let us talk, you'll be heading to court." We went to court thrice, and on 3 occasions we came out tops, and that was the only way we were able to. Maybe because I was a lawyer. I mean, I'm a lawyer. And a very active one at that before I got there. So I was bubbling with enthusiasm and everything. So it's the frame of mind of the government. You see, the way they are structured today, they think the local government is their fiefdom. And the kind of ease with which they are able to access local government funds, they don't need all those bottlenecks. I mean, at the local government level, like they would in their own. There are people who today they want to enjoy today, go to jail tomorrow if it's possible. Because they believe there are loopholes in the system that they will be able to navigate and escape accountability at the end of the day. So if their excellency, you're talking about direct funding. If you fund directly, they can take it back. It's round tripping. You understand? They can give it to you and say, look, return it. And you can do very little or nothing. Otherwise, you'll be looking for another job tomorrow. So if we come to, I disagree completely that this is not about negotiation. It's not about negotiation. Did we negotiate the Supreme Court decision? No. Once the Supreme Court is the apex court, is the final court of the land. And I think it is quite audacious for anybody to even think there should be a debate on the pronouncement of the apex court in the land. So by same token, I would want to encourage the Attorney General, who by any means is somebody that knows what he knows is onion, to still take this matter back to the so you see, the whole process of trying to go through legislation has proven ineffective in resolving this matter. We've been having this conversation for decades now. The only way they can learn is by the apex court going through the same process that they used to stamp their feet on the ground and say, this is what is good for the Nigerian people. Even if it involves, driving roughshods over what you may think are extant provisions of some laws. But again, the law is what the judiciary says it is, because they are the ones constitutionally saddled with the interpretation. So go by way of interpretation, seek the interpretation of the relevant sections of the Constitution, maybe Section 7, and so forth and so on. And agree that, you see, my problem with SIEC is, SIEC, who appoints the members of SIEC? In some states, card-carrying members of political parties,
head SIECs.
They are those on board SIEC. So it is, which one is even the bigger problem? Is it which one came first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Now, so we have to look at all of those. But my own submission, and I think I stand on very strong ground, is that if the Supreme Court, by parity of reason, the same way they took head on this latest pronouncement on the autonomy of local government, the issue of the appropriate body to conduct elections, INEC may have its own flaws, but vis-a-vis SIEC, I think INEC will appear to be like... So
you don't agree with Ezenwa that we should fix the problems in the CX? Instead of...
it's a bit more complicated because you are localizing all of this. You're going to have to deal with some 36 state governors as opposed to just focusing on the apex court, coming out with that pronouncement, and we're getting everybody to comply.
So you think it will be a long process?
I think it will be a long process because if in terms of trying to fix INEC, SIEC itself, you have to go through constitutional amendment. And that process will still go back to the respective state House of Assembly. And if you look at the antecedent...
But you called for amendment earlier on, where you said that there is need for us to...
Ordinarily, yes, but I'm saying that what we couldn't do using the respective state House of Assembly, the Supreme Court has done for us. And the beauty of it is it's beyond challenge or argument. They have said it, they have said it. Whether you think it's right or wrong or open to negotiation or not, that today is the law, irrespective of what you think the law says. So my take is that we should, the Attorney General should still go back to the Supreme Court, place this matter before it. Let us have a favorable interpretation that is in sync with the aspiration of the ordinary Nigerian.
Okay,
that's the only way to break through this, in my humble opinion.
Okay, thank you very much for your opinion there. We'll just pause here. We'll go for a break. When we come back, we'll go to our other guest via Zoom. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Our guests are still very much at us, and the topic for discussion today is local government autonomy matters arising. So we get to our guest, Honorable Aminu Muazu Maifata, the National President, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, who joins us from Nasarawa State. Honorable Maifata, you have spoken about what local governments could do, and and all the things that this autonomy can bring to the people of Nigeria. But our guests have said that, well, local government chairmen, by virtue of the way they have been elected, or if you like appointed or anointed, it's not likely that they will deliver, and this autonomy will mean anything good for the people. But I want to just hear your thoughts about what can be done, with the judgment of the Supreme Court. And our guest here, Shaba Ibrahim, has already said that this is not subject for negotiation or discussion, by any party. It should be followed, in clear terms. But tell us, how can we make local governments accountable? How can we make the administration, the financial, procedures, or if you like, administration of local governments as transparent and accountable as possible?
Thank you very much. Just like I said earlier, on getting this, we say first thing is to call our members. Maybe if it is going to be zonal or state by state, sensitize local government council chairmen on this new development. Know your boundaries. Know your responsibilities. So we are going to build capacities of these local government councils the more. Thank God, the present generation of local government chairmen are most of them, or most of us, are enlightened. Majority, if not all, know what they are doing because they are mostly graduates and they have a lot of experience. Knowing fully this, then we say, okay, come to the table, come to a classroom again to rekindle or to rejig what you knew before, that now we are clamoring for financial control. What are we going to do with these finances that will start trickling into our accounts? Do you just start spending anyhow you like? Because you are the chief executive of that local government council? We say no. There are procedures. There are rules, policies, and regulations guiding this expenditure. We have check and balances. Whether we like it or not, the legislative arm of the local government council are constitutionally responsible for checking the executive, as well as the executive checking them. So let us have that mindset. Let us know or bring it back to us that we have all taken oath to do the right thing. Once we know this, then we'll start doing the right thing. We'll start channeling, following due process and how to go about these expenditures will bring development in terms of whatever item to the people at the grassroots. So we will do this first. After doing this, then we will bring experts with experience, like former council chairmen, like our senior, the former Kogi council chairman. We'll bring some of them to come and lesson us, come and give us the experience to tap when they were receiving their monies direct to their council's account. How were they doing? So we need this kind of experiences, even though we know some of us that spend maybe some spending above 5 or 6 years in office, we must we have gathered a lot of experiences, some of us, to forge ahead. But majority of those coming newly, they need this orientation and reorientation so that we do the right thing. So having back of already started, and because we have already reached out to government organizations, private organizations, and even international organizations that are working in Nigeria, like the World Health Organization. We had reached out to it, and it has started giving us a lot of lessons on how to go about managing our healthcare, primary healthcare facilities so well. So these are the kind of things that we'll keep on doing until we get it right. We know the administrative autonomy we're talking about, it will come too. Since if you look at what most of the state governors are doing, in fact,
you know, Honorable Mayfata, because of time, quickly, I would like to find out, you said, you know, speaking with, you know, the local government chairmen, sensitizing them and all of that. Have you been able to reach out to local government chairmen in Oyo State, you know, to find out why they are against the decision of the Supreme Court? Have you been able to do that?
He spoke and reached out to the Algon chairman there. So he told me their reasons, but I tried to counsel them. We know.
Okay. What are their reasons? Could you share what you think their reasons are, what you were told?
Their reasons?
Yes.
Their reasons is just, to be frank, is just obeying your principle.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that answers the question.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Mayfata, for that. The need for, you have talked about the need to call for sensitization and to build the capacity of the local government chairman presently. Now let's go to Lokoja now, where we still have John Ajewole. If you have been following the discussion so far, just like Mayfata said, that there is need for to build the capacity of the local government chairman and also to create a lot of sensitization around this latest development when it comes to autonomy. So how do you think, because right now it's financial autonomy we are talking about now, and there is still need for a regulation. So how do we balance the need for state and federal oversight and regulation over this local government?
Thank you very much. Let me take off from what the last speaker said. One of the bane of our problem as a nation, and it cut across all levels, is failure of systems. Our system don't work. When we talk about financial responsibility, for example, it's because we don't have a system that works. Now that the local government will have financial autonomy, one thing we must ensure we have is that the court works as far as it concerns local government chairmen who manage resources. If anyone defaults, let the law have its full course. We have examples in other nations. We see former presidents in other nations being sent to jail when they are found guilty. This thing has not happened in Nigeria. Now that we want this local government now to be in charge of resources, just like it's been decided by the Supreme Court, one thing that must go along with that is an efficient system that will hold the local government chairman accountable. If any one of them is found defaulted, take to court. If they deserve jail, let them jail. Let them go to jail. That will serve as example for others and deterrent for others. Then secondly, in terms of capacity building, in the past, the local government is a place where anything goes. But because of the level of responsibility that will now be soldiered by them, at the recruitment stage, there must be an arrangement whereby the best in local government will come up, because it's managerial position that they will be holding down, and they will be administering resources that is enormous. Therefore, we must have people with capacity, people not just being there because somebody wants them to be there. Presently, we have in the local government people that were nominated by governors, people who by all standards may not even be able to perform, but their credential for being there is their loyalty to their governor. That should not be the case. We need to ensure that is done. And in terms of the recruitment and how to balance the power or the administration power between the federal and the state, I was going to say something earlier which time did not allow us to do. We have the local government system in Nigeria over time was a carryover from the system we inherited from the colonialists, which was a product of their own parliamentary system. In a federal state, powers generally is shared by the federal, the state, and the local government. Therefore, at the local government level, the local government should have the power to recruit its own staff, conduct its own election. At the beginning, they may falter, no doubt about that, but over time, they will grow. Even politically in Nigeria, we are still faltering because the military didn't allow us to grow over time since the First Republic. Yes, at the beginning, the local government may not get it right, but as they allow over time to manage their resources, manage whatever is coming to them, over time, they will come to master it and will be able to do what is needful. So I would say that we must follow the Supreme Court judgment to the end by allowing the federal spirit to run through and allow the local its own business, manage its resources, conduct its own election, and do everything that they ought to do at that level. I agree that because at this stage we don't have people in the local government that we can trust as such to handle this effectively. Over time, when we recruit the right people and of course arrange it in such a way that people will learn through the process, we will have people who will manage effectively at the local government. But the spirit of the judgment of the Supreme Court is that the local government should be independent. They are a free tier of government. They are not the appendages of states. So let that be clear. If we don't allow that to happen, we are going to come back again to where we are coming from. And I think the Supreme Court judgment has freed us in a sense from that heritage. And we should build on what we have now, and over time, barring interruptions, the local government will come out with a system that will be productive, we work for the grassroots and deliver. But we have to start from somewhere. So that's one thing that we must ensure.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Ajewole. Of course, we have to start from somewhere. And, the Supreme Court has started, from the very beginning. And like they say, it is the end of the matter. But let's get to Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede now. Earlier when you spoke, you talked about negotiating with the governors, on the matter. And guests in the studio have said, well, you do not negotiate the Supreme Court judgment. It is final. I want to hear what you think is, your recommendations, as to the way forward in all of this, and how the people generally, we're talking about how the Nigerian populace, the people in these local governments, can get the dividends of democracy. What will be your recommendations going forward?
Yes, I think it must be clarified that I didn't ask for the negotiation of the Supreme Court decision. I made it very clear and outlined the specific decision that has been made by the Supreme Court. Now, those decisions cannot be implemented by the court. The decision has to be implemented by parties involved. And the point that is being made is that these parties have to come together. No party can command another. The Supreme Court once gave a ruling that the federal government funds allocated to local government in Lagos State. But Obasanjo held on to it until he left power. And there was nothing anybody could do. Now we have this decision that has to be implemented. The federal government cannot implement it and just give money to the local governments directly that have elected officials, and we go to sleep that the judgment has been implemented. We are talking about going beyond just giving money to local government to making sure that monies are spent, are utilized to meet the aspirations of local communities. Now, you can't get that done by another court decision or by legislation. So you need to mobilize people. You need to, first of all, get those who are key actors. Now, we call this kind of challenge wicked problems. And when you are dealing with wicked problems, the parties, at least the actors that are critical to the decision, will have to be brought to the table for dialogue and agree on modalities for ensuring that the money don't just get to local government chairman and return back to the governors, but that the monies are actually allowed to be used in the way the Supreme Court envisages. That's actually what has to be negotiated. Now, I think everyone agrees that the governors are stakeholders, that the governors have substantial political power to affect the outcome of the Supreme Court's decision. So why are we saying that we cannot negotiate that process of implementation? In fact, there's no other way of democratically resolving issues except by negotiation, by persuasion, by dialogue. So we are not talking about negotiating the content of the policy. We are talking about negotiation process of its implementation so that that decision by the Supreme Court, those decisions by the Supreme Court would be meaningful. Otherwise, it will be made in the conflict between the federal government and the state government. And they say when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. So I agree that we should go beyond the state and federal government in the mobilization. We should reach out to civil society organization, community-based organization, traditional institution, PTA, all institutions are around the local government area. But how, regarding the government level. And we bring and we about how to.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much, Professor Ayede, for your contribution there. There is need for us to have a dialogue, between the states, the federal, and also the local governments. Let's just have your parting shot now because we are out of time.
If the federal government were behaving the way the governor of Oyo State was behaving, the current way he's behaving now, over governors who have independence, will you have the kind of situation? I think that the challenge we have is that we give comfort and to even people who should be in jail. If you held on to local government, the Supreme Court said release money to people, and you held on, it's something that we should be tried for. And we can't celebrate that. We can't, with due respect to highly esteemed Professor Ayede, we can't celebrate that kind of behavior. It is not a good example.
Okay.
And the reason was that Obasanjo had not completely weaned himself. And part of the challenges that we have today is the way he ambushed democratic structures and was running it in the lens of his military, image. To what should happen is that The negotiation should be with citizens. The engagement now should be with citizens. Citizen groups and organizations must come out very clearly and say, look, it is time you take off your hand from this.
Okay.
This is our thing.
Honorable Shaban, let's have your own parting shot.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, talking about negotiations, if their excellencies, as high up there as they will appear to be, were to be at the receiving end of a Supreme Court decision that said, look, vacate office, will we be talking about negotiation? If the Supreme Court were to void their election, some of which were issues before the respective election tribunals, can we be talking about negotiation? With all due respect, I think it is begging the matter. We're over massaging the egos of their excellencies. These people have held us to ransom for far too long. And I say that without mincing words. Okay. Unless and until we have a society that is willing, aided by the courts, to rein in this. Everybody has to maintain their lanes. The governor's powers may be enormous, but to the extent that they are overreaching others, they should be called to order.
Okay.
That's my position.
All right. Thank you.
Who will call the governors to order now? Final words, Algon, Chairman. The national president of Algon, Honorable Maifata. Please, in 20 seconds, we're about to round up the conversation. Your final words as we close.
I will say I have the conviction in me that this open announcements are going to be adhered to by all tiers of government. I don't see that, because from the reached out so far by the Algon National, in fact, have been receiving positive comments, aside from that of Oyo. And that of Oyo, we are very sure we are going to overcome it, because we are, at the national level, we are going to reach out to him to see reason. And we know that it is a fight, or it is just something.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Maifata. In the words of Ezinwa Wago, we shouldn't be discussing with people who should be in jail. It's time to round up the conversation. Thank you very much, Ezinwa Wago, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform and convener Say No Campaign Nigeria. Thank you for being our guest this morning. We appreciate your insight. Of course, Shaba Ibrahim, former House of Reps member and former Chairman of Kogi State Local Government Council, and also a legal practitioner. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
It's my pleasure
to
be
here.
Thank you.
John Ajewale, a constitutional lawyer, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Kogi State. We do appreciate you. Of course, Honorable Aminu Muazu Maifata, National President, Association of Local Government of Nigeria, Algon, and also the Nasarawa State Algon Chairman. Thank you for joining us. And, of course, Professor Emmanuel Remy Aide, Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. It was great to have you again on the program. So that's Good Morning Nigeria this Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching. Remain tuned to the NTA. I'm Yen Ray John.
And I'm Ademola Adeye. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.